Hey there, all you theater trivia titans. Welcome back to Broadway by Ghostlight. I'm Mark Bonanni, and this is episode 11 of Broadway Jeopardy. A new episode of Broadway Jeopardy drops every Thursday starting at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so make sure you're subscribed so you won't miss an episode. I've got 26 all-new clues headed your way and 5 new categories, including the final Jeopardy round. After the game, I'll talk a little bit about some fun upcoming category ideas, but for now, let's get right into this week's game. This is Broadway Jeopardy! Let's Fosse walk over to look at this week's categories. First up, it's Heat Wave, last week's final Jeopardy category, looking at some heat in Broadway shows in honor of the brutal summer weather we've been having. Then it's Oh What a Circus, musicals that have circus elements. Up next, it's Utter Nonsense, looking at some made-up words in various show tunes. After that, we have non-Disney animated musicals. This will be a visual category where I'll show you a character from a non-Disney animated musical, and you name the show. Pretty self-explanatory. And finally, it's theater terminology, looking at some theater words or phrases. And of course, make sure and keep track of your score for the final Jeopardy round. We start the $200 round, the overture round as I call it, where the questions are hopefully easy enough for you to rack up some fake dough before we crank up the difficulty level. We start in the heat wave category. Your first clue is, in The Pajama Game, Gladys and two men entertain the crowd at the Union rally with this hot number famously choreographed by Bob Fosse. What is steam heat is the answer. The famous Fosse number got such a huge ovation when first performed in the show's pre-Broadway engagement that director George Abbott wanted to cut the dance completely. Luckily, fellow director slash choreographer Jerome Robbins convinced Abbott to keep it in the show. And thank Thespis he did.
Yeah, I got steam heat.
The $200 clue in the Oh What a Circus category is, in the hit 2017 movie musical The Greatest Showman, this A-list Aussie starred as real-life circus impresario P.T. Barnum. Who is Hugh Jackman? The megastar of stage and screen was starring in a London revival of Oklahoma when he was cast last minute as Logan, aka Wolverine, in the first X-Men film in 2000, launching him to superstardom. Looking at the utter nonsense category, your $200 clue is, one of the most well-known gibberish phrases in pop culture history, this extra long word was popularized by the film musical Mary Poppins. What is supercalifragilisticexpialidocious? The now famous fabricated phrase contains 34 letters and 14 syllables.
You know, you can say it backwards, which is docious ali expiistic fragicalirufus, but that's going a bit too far, don't you think?
Indubitum.
So
Up next in the non-Disney animated musicals category, we have this non-Disney princess was voiced by Meg Ryan, but the great Liz Callaway provided the character's singing voice for the wonderful Lynn Ahrens and Stephen Flaherty songs. Who is Anastasia? The 1997 film Anastasia was the first film for Fox Animation Studios, 20th Century Fox's attempt to rival Disney. Didn't work out though. The studio only released 2 films, including Anastasia, before closing up shop. The final clue for the overture round is in the theater terminology category. Your $200 clue is, it's terribly bad luck to wish someone good luck before a performance. Instead, you're meant to say this. What is break a leg? There are many, many different supposed origins for the phrase break a leg. One is that it refers to bowing, and the more applause, the deeper you bend your leg for the bow or break the shape of the leg. Another is from vaudeville, where you didn't get paid unless you went on stage, and breaking the leg meant coming out from the wings and onto the stage, thus getting paid. There is a ton of different meanings floating out there. Which do you believe? I'd be curious to know. Hopefully you all aced that round and are feeling ready to move on to the only slightly harder $400 round. We start back at Heatwave. Your $400 clue is, it's hot and it's monotonous for Dot and the rest of the people outdoors on a weekend in this Sondheim musical. What is Sunday in the Park with George? The heat is mentioned quite a few times in the musical, which originally starred Mandy Patinkin and Bernadette Peters.
God, it's hot out here.
Let's go under the big top for the next $400 clue, which is, long before The Greatest Showman, there was this 1980 musical with a score by Cy Coleman and Michael Stewart, and starring Jim Dale as the Prince of Humbug himself. What is Barnum? In London, P.T. Barnum was played by Michael Crawford, for which there is a pro shot available. A revival of Barnum about the life of the famous three-ring huckster has been rumored for years, with possible stars including Raul Esparza and Neil Patrick Harris.
I could see that.
Let's look at some gibberish lyrics in Utter Nonsense. Your $400 clue is, in this tribal love rock musical, you'll hear the nonsense phrase, glitty glub gloopy, nibby nobby noopy, la 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 lolo. What is hair, of course, is the correct answer. The lyrics are from the song Good Morning Starshine. It's been recorded by many artists throughout the years, but it was pop singer Oliver whose rendition reached number 3 on the US Billboard charts.
Good morning, starshine. The earth says hello.
Let's head to Blockbuster and rent a VHS of a non-Disney animated movie. That's still a thing, right? Your $400 clue is, the gorgeous animated musical this biblical character is from features the songs Deliver Us, Through Heaven's Eyes, and When You Believe. What is The Prince of Egypt? The animated film was only the second film released by DreamWorks Animation, and honestly, one of the best and most beautiful animated films out there. And it does not matter if you're religious or not. It's just a beautiful film with great music. Our final $400 clue is in the theater terminology category. It's now an almost obligatory practice in modern theater. Before a show officially opens, they have performances called this, where the show can still change a little or a lot. What are previews? Yes, previews are the first public performances before a show officially opens. Until then, anything from a tiny line change to a whole new number can be implemented. Previews weren't much of a thing in the golden age of Broadway, with most shows just excising them altogether. For example, the original Gypsy in 1959 only had 2 previews. The upcoming Broadway revival is currently scheduled for 28 previews, which honestly isn't even that many by today's standards.
Oh, those previews. Like opening out of town, but terrifying.
Let's start to turn up the heat with the $600 round, and the perfect category to do that is Heat Wave. Your $600 clue is, during the show within a show's intermission in the musical Kiss Me Kate, the leading man's assistant Paul and the rest of the cast and crew sing about the heat in this sizzling showstopper. What is Too Darn Hot? The Cole Porter song starts Act 2 in the stage show. In the film, it's completely out of context, but performed with zazz by Ann Miller.
'Cause it's too darn hot. It's too darn hot. It's too darn hot.
Your $600 clue in the Oh What a Circus category is: this currently running musical, based on the book and film of the same name, is a love story set in the rundown Benzini Brothers Circus in the 1930s. What is Water for Elephants? I don't like to know anything about a show before I see it, and I didn't know the movie or book for Water for Elephants, but I absolutely had to Google, does anything bad happen to an elephant in Water for Elephants before I see it, just so I could be prepared. I never do that. Does anyone else like that? Anyways, the romantic drama musical incorporates real circus performers into the cast who perform some amazing and often beautiful feats in the show.
Have you seen our hippopotamus? The lion has got no teeth. All the rubes think that she's marvelous. The lion has got no teeth. Been a month now since she died, swimming in a tank of formaldehyde.
Let's skedaddle over to Utter Nonsense, where the $600 clue is: in The Music Man, we learn that the girl who's hard to get is a shapoopy, thanks to this character who sings the song in the show. Who is Marcellus Washburn is the answer. Yes, everyone remembers Shapoopy, but not necessarily Mr. Washburn. What's crazy now is that most of America knows Shapoopy not from The Music Man, but from the TV show Family Guy, which is just so crazy to me, and maybe a little sad too, but at least they performed the real song in the show, I think pretty much in full.
Shapoopy, 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 the girl who's hard to get. Shapoopy, shapoopy, shapoopy,
But you can win her yet.
walk her once just to raise the curtain. Walk around twice and you make for certain. Once more in a flower garden, she will never get sore if you beg her pardon.
Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, si, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do.
Up next in the cleverly named non-Disney animated musicals, your $600 clue is: in the classic animated film An American Tail, the Mousewitzes leave their home country of Russia for a better life in the States, but this little guy seen here gets lost and must find his way back to his family. Who is Fievel is the correct answer. I was a little too young to really appreciate the film An American Tail when it came out, but I was a big fan of the sequel, Fievel Goes West, which looking back now is quite the departure from the deep and powerful story and history behind the first film, but you know, what did I know? I was 7. Your $600 clue in the theater terminology category is: due to the chemicals used, the original spotlights had a greenish tinge to them, leading to this nickname for spotlights, which has come to mean stardom in general. What is limelight? Stepping into the limelight is now what every young theater kid dreams of, but in the early 20th century, it was just chemistry.
Chemistry?
Yeah, chemistry.
Quicklime was burned to achieve the bright light, but it did have a green hue to it. As such, green costumes and set pieces were rarely used, otherwise they'd be washed out by the green lights. It's time to really put on the pressure with the $800 round, but before we do, please, oh please, hit that like button if you're enjoying this week's game. It really helps these videos find more fine folks like yourselves, helps the channel grow, and helps me feel like $1,000,000 fake dollars. Thanks everyone, I really do appreciate it. Speaking of fake dollars, here we go, circling back to Heatwave. For $800, your clue is: thanks to the title of this Golden Age musical, we know that this is the temperature in the small, dry Southwest town that Lizzie Curry and her family live in. What is 110 in the shade? 110 degrees. I think I would just burst into a fireball and die. 110 in the shade is based on the play The Rainmaker by N. Richard Nash, and it's actually one of my favorite plays. Bill Starbuck, the titular Rainmaker, is a dream role of mine. Step right up to Oh, What a Circus. The $800 clue is, in this musical, you'll hear the tragic story of the escapologist and the acrobat, but were forced to perform the most dangerous feat known to man by the acrobat's evil sister. What is Matilda is the answer. All throughout the musical, in bits and pieces, Matilda tells her library friend the tale of the escapologist and the acrobats, or escapologist, I guess, if I threw the American accent on there, which becomes pertinent to the plot later on in the show, but I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. The full name of the most dangerous stunt known to man that the circus couple is forced to perform is The Burning Woman Hurling Through the Air with Dynamite in Her Hair Over Sharp and Spiky Objects Caught by the Man Locked in a Cage. Sounds like a piece of cake. Moving on to the utter nonsense category, your $800 clue is, when the titular drowsy chaperone performs her big solo As We Stumble Along, she forgets a lyric and substitutes this made-up word instead. What is plumble is the correct answer. I love The Drowsy Chaperone, and Beth Level's performance was a masterclass in comedy. I actually worked merch for the original production, and I'd watch the show every Sunday, and hearing the plumble section of As We Stumble Along was always one of the many highlights.
We stumble, bumble, fumble, plumble.
Let's take a look at one of my all-time favorite non-Disney animated musicals of all time with the $800 clue. It's, in this 1985 animated musical, the criminal seen here named Claudia, along with her brother Klaus, tricks the movie's young heroes into going on a hot air balloon trip around the world. The kid pop stars don't know they're actually smuggling money and diamonds. What is The Chipmunk Adventure? Y'all, this movie is crazy. If you haven't seen it, the Chipmunks and the Chipettes get wrapped up in a diamond smuggling ring by these not quite right brother and sister duo. We won't get into that.
Claudia, it's 5 in the morning. What's going on?
Oh, nothing, Klaus.
The boys almost get sacrificed to alligators in the rainforest. The Chipettes sing a wildly inappropriate song to some snakes. But what can I say? I love it. This song right here, I still listen to on a weekly basis. All right, let's try to recall Intro to Theater class with the theater terminology category. The final $800 clue is, some stages are heavily sloped in order to give the audience a better view of the show. These types of stages are called this. What is raked is the correct answer. Rake stages were par for the course in the 19th century, but more modern theaters were built with a raked audience instead of a raked stage, which is how you know most theaters today. But some shows still choose to create a raked stage. I know Mamma Mia on Broadway at the Winter Garden had a big old rake stage, but when it was moved to the Broadhurst, the rake was gone. Also, the term upstage comes from raking because walking to the back of the stage on a rake stage makes you go up higher. So there you go. And with that, we've reached the big show, the toughest test of theater trivia tenacity. It's the $1,000 round. Let me hear that dramatic music. Good luck, players. We start back at Heatwave, where your $1,000 clue is, Ethel Waters was the first singer to start a heat wave by letting her seat wave in a review by this songwriter, who also wrote the songs Blue Skies, Puttin' on the Ritz, and There's No Business Like Show Business. Who is Irving Berlin? The review in question that the hit song Heatwave premiered in was called As Thousands Cheer from 1933. A very influential review, actually. It was presented as a sort of living newspaper, and Heatwave was the weather report, naturally.
We're having a heat wave, a tropical heat wave. The temperature's rising, it isn't surprising, she certainly can.
The song was performed by Marilyn Monroe in the film There's No Business Like Show Business. It was also the opening credits song to the movie Grumpy Old Men, which is really neither here nor there. It's just every time I hear that song, it makes me think of Grumpy Old Men.
What a punch.
Our last trip to Oh What a Circus brings us the $1,000 clue. This musical from 1935, with a score by Rodgers and Hart, starred Jimmy Durante and a real-life elephant who played the title role. What is Jumbo is the correct answer. The Rodgers and Hart musical played the fabled Hippodrome Theater, which was massive. I mean, look at this picture of the Jumbo set from 1935. There was a film version of Jumbo made in 1962 with Doris Day and Jimmy Durante recreating his original role, where he delivers this well-known gag, at least in the 1930s.
Just walk natural as if you were out for a stroll. Not a word. Not a word.
Hold it! Hold it right there! Where are you going with that elephant?
What elephant?
Let's plumble over to the utter nonsense category. The $1,000 clue is, when young Eve goes backstage to meet her favorite actress, she hears mostly gibberish in the song Backstage Babble from this 1970 musical. What is Applause is the correct answer. The musical is not based on the film All About Eve, for legal reasons. It starred Lauren Bacall as Margot Channing and Penny Fuller as Eve. Your last visual clue in the non-Disney animated musicals category is, this underappreciated animated musical was released in 1997 and features Scott Bakula voicing the feline Danny, a young hoofer in 1939 Hollywood, as he fights to get in the pictures, despite the egomaniacal child star Darla Dimples trying to keep him out. What is Cats Don't Dance? Cats Don't Dance is a sweet little movie that I love, but it could have been really wonderful. The animation studio that made the film, Turner Feature Animation, changed management several times during the production of the movie, and all the different management teams had different notes and revisions they wanted to see. The final film was significantly cut down to a quick 74-minute runtime. But I do love it. Gene Kelly consulted on the dancing, Randy Newman wrote the score, and the villain Darla Dimples is everything.
Mr. Pussycat, listen to me. You don't have to be good, but you had better be.
Get hot, Mr. Bull.
Let's watch our phraseology one last time at Theater Terminology. Your $1,000 clue is, this German word is the term for the all-important rehearsal when the cast first perform with the show's full orchestra. What is a Sitzprobe? The term Sitzprobe literally means seated rehearsal, and as the clue stated, it's about the integration of the cast with the orchestra. And it can be quite traumatic for some. Here's a clip of Rex Harrison recreating his Sitzprobe in the original My Fair Lady.
An ordinary man. But let a woman in your life.
Stop! Take it out. I demand that be taken out.
Take out what?
That ya-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. It's so loud. How do I know where to sing?
You'll get used to it, Rex.
I will never get used to it.
It's absolutely ridiculous for a man to be standing up here saying his lines with a symphony orchestra blasting away down there.
What would you like to do, Rex?
I'd like to do it as a straight play. That's what I'd like to do.
And that leads us to this week's final Jeopardy round. Add up your scores so far and decide how confident you feel in the category Broadway debuts, looking at some various theater professionals' first foray onto the boards. Thank you to super patron Ryan James D for suggesting that one. Love you, buddy. Okay, big spenders, have we all made our wagers? Lisa? Patrick? Kelly? Okay, here is your final clue. A 19-year-old Barbra Streisand made her Broadway debut in the musical I Can Get It For You Wholesale, where she belted out this comedic number. What is Miss Marmalstein is the correct answer. The song by Harold Rome would routinely stop the show with Miss Streisand's brilliant comic timing and killer pipes. This song led directly to her next role, Fanny Bryce in Funny Girl. And that's this week's game. How did you all do? Are you living it up on top, or are you down to the bare necessities? Be sure to write your final score in the comments. It brings me so much joy to see how you all did. And I know that the games have maybe skewed a little harder lately, and as we continue week to week, I'll have to touch on some older shows and more obscure musicals. But besides having fun and seeing how much you know, I also wanted these games to teach a little something as well, so I hope you all are up for the challenge. If you are, make sure you're subscribed so you won't miss an episode. And like and share these videos too, pretty please. I'll hopefully be able to bring you some on-location categories around the theater district sometime soon, and maybe have some guest categories as well, where I'll ask someone else to write a category. If you've got a theater content creator or someone like that you want to create a category, let me know and I'll do my best. I will also be turning to my rock stars, the patrons over on Patreon, for another category soon. Thank you so much, patrons. I couldn't keep doing this without you. There is a link in the description if you want to check out the Patreon and maybe support me even more. You can follow me on the socials at Ghostlight. I have a lot of fun over there. But until next week, I'm Mark Bonanni. This is Broadway by Ghostlight. Thanks for playing.